Imagine looking at a tiny backyard and seeing nothing more than a small patch of empty soil. Now imagine turning that same space into a productive little carrot farm, harvesting fresh, sweet, crunchy carrots again and again throughout the growing season. You do not need acres of land, expensive equipment, or a complicated farming system to make it happen. The real secret is much simpler: how you prepare the soil, how you sow the seeds, and how you use every inch of available space. Carrots are one of the best vegetables for small gardens because they grow directly from seed, require relatively little space above the ground, and can even be grown in raised beds and suitable containers. But there is one important thing to understand from the beginning. Carrots are a root crop, so what happens underneath the soil matters far more than what you see on top. The first step is choosing the right place. Carrots grow best where they can receive plenty of sunlight, ideally around 6 or more hours of direct light each day, with loose, well-drained soil. Unlike some vegetables, carrots do not need a huge amount of space between plants, but they do need enough depth for their roots to develop. If your backyard soil is hard, compacted, full of stones, or heavy with clay, simply dropping carrot seeds into it will often produce short, twisted, forked, or strangely shaped roots. That is why soil preparation is one of the biggest secrets to growing beautiful carrots. Break the soil deeply, remove stones and large clumps, and create a fine, crumbly seed bed. For longer varieties, deeper soil is especially important, while shorter or round varieties are much more forgiving if your growing area is shallow or your soil is difficult. And here's where many beginners make their first mistake. They think adding lots of fertilizer will make the carrots bigger. But carrots are not tomatoes. You are growing the root, not a giant leafy plant. Too much nitrogen can encourage excessive foliage and may contribute to poor root formation or forking. Instead, focus on creating fertile but loose soil with good drainage and plenty of organic matter that has already broken down. If your natural soil is difficult, a raised bed can completely change the game. You can build a narrow bed, fill it with a suitable growing mix, and dedicate it entirely to carrots. This means that even a small backyard corner can become a highly productive growing space. Now comes the most important part of the entire video: the sowing technique. Carrot seeds are extremely small, and this is exactly why sowing them correctly can make such a huge difference. Do not make a deep hole and bury the seeds. Carrot seeds are normally sown very shallowly, around 1/4 to 1/2 inch deep, depending on conditions and variety. In a prepared bed, make a shallow, straight groove. Gently water the bottom if needed, and then sprinkle the seeds as evenly and thinly as possible. Cover them with a fine layer of soil or fine compost, and gently firm the surface so the seeds have good contact with the soil. The seeds need consistent moisture while they are germinating, so the surface should not be allowed to dry out completely. At the same time, avoid washing the tiny seeds away with a strong stream of water. A gentler watering method is much better. But there is an even smarter trick if you want to turn a small backyard into something that feels more like a mini carrot farm. Instead of planting one enormous row, use short, intensive rows or narrow bands across your available space. You can create several rows across a raised bed, leaving enough room to care for the plants without wasting large areas of soil. The exact row spacing depends on your variety and garden system, but the key idea is simple. Use the horizontal space efficiently while giving each carrot enough room to develop underneath the ground. For a small garden, shorter carrot varieties such as round or baby types can be especially useful because they do not require the same root depth as long varieties. Now comes another secret that can completely change your harvest: succession sowing. Instead of planting all your carrot seeds on one day and then waiting weeks for one big harvest, sow a small batch every 3 to 4 weeks during the suitable growing period for your climate and variety. Think of your backyard as a production line. One small row is growing, another is germinating, another is developing roots, and another is approaching harvest. This simple technique prevents the common problem of having hundreds of carrots ready at exactly the same time. Instead, you can create a steady supply of fresh carrots over a much longer period. This is one of the best ways to make a tiny garden behave like a much larger one. Once the seedlings emerge, patience becomes important. Carrots can be surprisingly slow to germinate compared with vegetables such as radishes, and under some conditions, emergence can take up to several weeks. This is why beginners sometimes think their seeds have failed and disturb the soil too early. Resist that temptation. Keep the seedbed evenly moist and watch carefully for those tiny green shoots. Some gardeners even sow a few radish seeds alongside or near carrot rows, because radishes germinate faster and can help mark where the slower carrot rows are located. Once the carrot seedlings are established, the next challenge is spacing. If dozens of seedlings are growing shoulder to shoulder, they will compete for space and the developing roots may become small, crowded, or distorted. This is where thinning becomes extremely important. When the seedlings are established, gradually remove excess plants so the remaining carrots have enough room to form properly. Depending on the variety and the size you want, around 2 to 3 inches between plants is a common target. If you want baby carrots, you can work with closer spacing and harvest them young. If you want larger mature roots, give them more room. And there is a clever way to turn thinning into an extra harvest rather than simply throwing the small plants away. As the carrots become large enough, you can remove some of the crowded young roots and enjoy them as baby carrots, allowing the remaining plants to expand into the newly available space. After spacing, the next priority is water. Carrots do not want a constantly flooded bed, but they do need reliable moisture, especially while the seeds are germinating and the young roots are developing. Uneven moisture can lead to poor emergence and misshapen roots, while excessive watering can create other problems. The goal is steady, even moisture, rather than constantly soaking the soil. A light layer of mulch around established plants can help reduce moisture loss and suppress weeds, but be careful not to bury the young seedlings. And remember, weeds can compete strongly with small carrot seedlings because carrots are slow growing at the beginning. Keep the bed clean, but cultivate very carefully and shallowly so you do not damage the developing roots. There is also one pest that deserves special attention: carrot fly. Depending on where you live, carrot fly can damage the roots and ruin an otherwise healthy crop. One of the simplest protective strategies is using insect-proof mesh or an appropriate physical barrier over the crop. Good garden hygiene, sensible crop rotation, and avoiding repeatedly growing carrots in the same exact soil can also help reduce pest pressure. In other words, the secret to a successful carrot garden is not one magic trick. It is a combination of small decisions that work together: good soil, correct sowing depth, proper spacing, consistent moisture, weed control, and protection from pests. And when should you harvest? That depends on the variety and the growing conditions. Some baby carrots can be ready in roughly 6 to 8 weeks, while many main crop varieties take around 10 to 14 weeks or longer. Instead of judging only by the number of days, check the variety information on your seed packet and look at the size of the shoulders near the soil surface. When the carrots have reached the size you want, loosen the soil gently and pull them carefully. Freshly harvested carrots can be remarkably sweet and crunchy, especially when compared with carrots that have been sitting in storage for a long time. And here is the bigger lesson: a small backyard does not have to mean a small harvest. If you plant randomly, waste space, overcrowd the seeds, ignore the soil, and harvest everything at once, even a large garden can become inefficient. But if you prepare the growing area properly, sow thinly, use compact varieties where appropriate, thin at the right time, protect the crop, and repeat your sowing every few weeks, that same small backyard can continuously produce fresh carrots. You can even use suitable deep containers or raised beds if you have almost no ground space at all. The container or bed simply needs to provide enough depth, drainage, and a loose growing medium, appropriate for the carrot variety. So if you have a small patch of soil beside your house, a narrow backyard, a raised bed, or even a suitable deep container, do not think of it as too little space. Think of it as a mini carrot farm waiting to be organized. Start with good soil. Choose the right variety for your space. Sow the seeds shallowly and evenly. Keep the surface moist during germination. Thin the seedlings so the roots have room to grow, and then repeat the process every few weeks for a continuing harvest. Because the real secret is not simply planting more seeds, it is sowing smarter. Give every seed the right beginning, give every root the space it needs, and use every small section of your backyard wisely. And before long, that ordinary little piece of land can become a surprisingly productive carrot garden, filled with fresh green tops above the soil and a hidden harvest of sweet, colorful carrots waiting underneath. That is how you turn one small backyard into a carrot farm, not by using more land, but by making every inch of land work harder. Thanks for watching.